Hey, good afternoon or evening. I hope you are all doing well. And Dan Kalish here. I just want to introduce myself tonight, talk a little bit about the class that we're starting, the mentorship class, and then see if you guys have questions. We have also a list of questions that have already come in, and I will read off questions that you may post. So you're welcome to just post a question in the little email box, chat message box thing, or you can just raise your hand and I can just open up your mic and we can talk and ask your question verbally. That's fine too. Um, let's just make sure my sound is working. You guys, if someone could just raise their hand if they can hear me clearly, just make sure the sound is good. That would be helpful. Let me just grab somebody and see if I can, if Susan is live there. Or grab Philippa. Philippa, can you hear me there? Is my sound good? Philippa? She might not have a mic hooked. Oh yeah, that's good. All right, she said yes. She raised her hand up there. Okay, so we're good. All right, so let's jump in. It's time. So just a little bit about whoosh, well, all the things that are going on around the Kalish Institute, and I'll show you some examples of all this stuff as well. A little bit about myself. You know, I've been training doctors for a long time. We trained over 1,000 people in this mentorship program. It's been going on for about 11 years now, I guess. We started in 2006, developing all the materials and talking to doctors, and I guess that makes it 11 years. Wow, yeah, that's gone pretty quickly. So I've been in practice for a long time too. I still practice part-time. Last year, we published a research study with the Mayo Clinic, which I'll show you here. Some of you may have seen this already. Pretty cool though. So the research study was on the Kalish method, evaluation of a functional medicine approach to treating fatigue, stress, and digestive issues in women. Sue Cutshall from the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Larry Bergstrom from the Mayo Clinic in Scottsdale, Arizona, and myself. And we showed that the Kalish method works, basically. You can read this if you ever want to take the time, take a look at it. It's pretty interesting. We did the adrenal and GI protocols that we're about to look at in the class on 25 women. And, you know, for me, it was kind of a real sense of acknowledgement to see that not only, because you know when you're in the clinic that these things work really well, but when you have the Mayo Clinic breathing down your throat, you're actually doing a study, it's kind of a whole other ballgame, right? Because then you really see if this stuff works or not. And, you know, the funny thing is, I have my own personal conception about how well Kalish method works, and this study kind of blew that out of the water. We got rid of 8 out of the 9 H. pylori cases. I think we cleared up like something like 17 out of 19 GI infections. The adrenal labs mostly got better. 1 or 2 people didn't, you know. But anyways, the study was pretty significant, for me emotionally at least, to just see, wow, this stuff really does work. And again, I'm happy to send you guys copies of this if you haven't seen it yet. You can read it. It is basically what we did in this research study is basically what we do in the training program. It was me working with patients, 25 women, using the exact same protocols that we use in class. So that's kind of cool validation, you know. And I love the people at the Mayo Clinic. They've been really, really great partners to work with over the past many years. We had, the way that relationship started was, you know, about 8 years ago. 5 practitioners in the Mayo Clinic took the training program that you guys are going to take, and they loved it so much they're like, hey, let's do a research study on this, and that's what ended up happening. So this stuff is real. It's not like something I've made up, and it's not theoretical. You know, it's been done for generations. I'm really the 2nd generation of doctors to do this work. I repeat and do the same exact work that I was taught 25 years ago, and I guess I'm training the 3rd generation of doctors now, because if you guys learn this stuff from me, that would make you the 3rd generation. And so I certainly know when I was starting out in functional medicine, having Dr. Timmons, who is my mentor, be there every day on my speed dial, met with him once a week, talked through all my cases, that enabled me to create the functional medicine practice of my dreams in a pretty short period of time. And without Dr. Timmons, I really would have struggled. And I wanted to, in this course, mimic that experience in an online way so that you guys feel like I'm with you every week looking over your labs, which we do, that I can answer any questions that you might have, that you have, in addition to me, this community of doctors that you can speak with about your tests. And so it takes away all the isolation and all the challenges, really, that functional medicine doctors face when they're trying to do this on their own. It's really, really hard to do this on your own. And we find that almost everybody that takes this class, is going to pay for the class by improving their, collections before the class is over. That's really our goal, to make sure that that happens. I want to show you a couple other things here about how the class is structured, and then I'll show you some examples about what it's like to be in a live call and what the live calls are like. So there's two sort of fundamental structures to the actual course. One is what I consider like the lecture hall. And this is the curriculum as it rolls out in a linear fashion, meaning that, there's module 1 and there's module 2, and you go through the beginnings here, orientation to the course, the basics of functional medicine philosophy, and each one of these is a link, the 4 horsemen, we talk about some of the basic physiology behind the problems, lifestyle factors, get into the basics on the supplements. And again, each one of these sections has a video that's associated with it that you can watch, as well as it has assignments and all those kinds of things. So this is sort of the linear fashion. I think of it like a textbook would be, or you're basically going through all these different modules as you would a book, one chapter after the other. Now, of course, you can skip around. When you get access to the class, once you sign up for the class, you get access to every module immediately. You can skip around if you want, but the curriculum's laid out in a linear fashion, and there's other features to this that I think are outstanding. I was just at a conference I got back yesterday, and I met 3 students who have taken this class, and they all, and I love to go to conferences. They come up to me, and they always recognize me, but I don't always recognize them because they've been watching me on video for 6 months, right? And this just happened with 3 doctors yesterday. They come up to me and they say, I love the class, and then I always say, what did you get out of it? And they always say the same thing. They always say, it really taught me how to communicate better with patients. I don't think it's the newsflash to any of you that the adrenals are important to test, but the way that these lectures are structured is in the exact same language that one would speak to a patient. And the way that the Q&A calls are structured is all of us talking in the way that you would speak this to a patient. And so patient communication, patient sales, patient buy-in, patient compliance really skyrockets when people take this class. That's the #1 thing that most doctors say it helps them with. Because you can learn the adrenal stuff and how to use supplements in other places too, right? But the communication skills part is hard to learn. Okay, so we got the lecture hall, then we also have the community feature. And the community feature means that there's a discussion forum. And here you can see Heather Glenn just posted something 44 minutes ago about holistic nutrition certification. She's asking questions. There's a case study that just got posted. There's Dr. Sturgis there asking a question about new lab values he's wondering about. Adam Lerner's chiming in. He wants some help with some strange new symptom of a patient. So there's an interactive component to this where the doctors are interacting with one another, independent of me or what I'm doing in terms of the actual courses. And then in addition to that discussion forum, we have this content. And so the content is divided up into a variety of different sort of areas. We've got quick fix videos, which means that if you just need to know what an H. pylori protocol is like, you can go right to the H. pylori section here, click on that, and get the information. If you just want to know what stage adrenal is this, you can go to the adrenal stage 1 and listen to that video. These are short videos that are designed to be used like you just got the lab in, maybe class starts in a few days, you don't have time to talk to me, you just want to look something up. So these kind of like shortcut videos. And then in addition to that, we also have it structured in what I call the treatment map. And this is a map of everything in the entire class. Neuroendocrine, GI, detox, everything in the entire class here. Every lecture, every protocol, every supplement. And it's in a non-linear way, right? So if you're in the pathogen section of the class and you forgot about the neurotransmitter thing that you want to do, you can scoot around and navigate all the curriculum using this treatment map. And that's a really wonderful tool and another source or another way to access all the content. And then we have the case study library, which at this point is absolutely ridiculous. So let's say you have a blastocystis case. You type in blasto to the search engine here, and you will see all the things having to do with blasto show up. Hang on a second. I didn't really. There we go. And case study number 1790. Okay, that lets you know there's a couple thousand case studies in here. Treatment plan for 10-year-old with blasto. So if you have a kid that has blasto, there's a case study for it. And in fact, with 2,000 case studies, there's a case study for pretty much everything you're going to face, all right? And those case studies, when we say case study, what I mean is that there's a video where we reviewed the case in class, and then there's a transcript of everything typed up. We have all that information for you, and it's just a wealth. The case study library alone is just unparalleled. It's an incredible resource for doctors. You can look up just about anything. And it's all real stuff, that with real doctors from my real class. It's not like some made-up thing. So the case study library is there, and then we have clinical topics in addition. And the clinical topics are going to be, they're not case studies because it wasn't a patient, but it's just like something super important. So that's not in the regular curriculum. So it could be anything from understanding your role as a practitioner to taking a closer look at pyroglutamate markers. It could be a lecture about compliance with lifestyle changes, or a lecture about B fragilis and what that means on the GI effects test. So there's, like, again, like just an infinite number of these clinical topics. So much information now, it's like literally more than anyone could handle. So again, we have a search engine, and you can search through here, and if you want to know about, oh gosh, this is hiring people, staffing or something like that, there's like, look at that. There's like more than you could ever read just about that subject matter alone. Okay, so we have tons and tons and tons and tons of information, and it's about everything from, you know, blasto to your staff. Because, you know, I'm in practice too, and I know that you guys one day, you know, at 9 o'clock may be worrying about a blasto patient, and then it's 11:30 and you're worried about hiring somebody, right? That's just how this business rolls out. So again, we have the community feature here with all these searchable resources for you, the content, including case studies, clinical topics, and then the discussion forum is one of the better things. You can communicate with other doctors. And there's just a wealth of information along those lines as well. So, like, if you're wondering about, you know, and there's a lot of doctors in here that are smarter than I am. Okay, not kidding about that. I'm smart enough to recognize when someone else is super smart. So, like, let's take Anita, for example, one of the best doctors around. She's an OBGYN. I didn't deliver 2,000 babies in my career. I mean, I've been at one birth, which was the birth of my son. You know, I certainly didn't work with female hormones and female exams for 20 years like Anita did. So when a patient, when a fellow doctor asks a question, like Darla's saying, 23-year-old female patient with severe amenorrhea, I might chime in and just see. I made a little comment here, you know, but yeah, but then Anita just did all the heavy lifting, and she's like, for sure, GI imbalance can lead to hormone, blah, 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 blah. She's just giving her 20 years of experience as an OBGYN to answer the question, which I couldn't have done, right, because I don't have that background. So we have this community that's just a wonderful group of doctors, and they're really smart. And when they see a question that they know the answer to, they're going to want to answer it, you know? Of course they will, just like you would if you saw a question that overlapped with your area of specialty. Okay? So again, we have the curriculum, which I think of as a sort of static thing because it's posted. It's the linear thing that I showed you, you know, module after module. We have the community, and then we have the live calls. Let me show you how the live calls work. So live calls are once a week, and I'll show you an example from last week. You can see. Here we go. And this is just, from a couple weeks ago. And basically, doctors submit on this form a lab, right, or labs. So they fill out the patient's information, patient's complaints, and then we post their labs. In this case, it was a cortisol test, an adrenal panel, and let's see what else we had, and a GI effects test. So I just go through this with them as if I was sitting in your clinic and you said, hey, Dan, what do you think about these two labs? And we spent anywhere from 5 minutes to 20 minutes on a case, depending how complicated it is. And we go through every marker and talk about it till the doctor is satisfied that they have a good plan. And then we move on to the next case. Let's see. Sorry, my computer's not cooperating here for some reason. There we go. This was a long case. There's a lot of labs for that one. So that was not a 5-minute one, okay? This was like a 20-minute one. All right, here's it. No, there's the next case. So then Kim submitted this one. 25-year-old engineer on all these medications. What are we going to do? Let's look at the labs. There's another adrenal panel. Looked at that for this patient. And then there was an organic acids panel, so we reviewed that. And again, design programs. And that's how the live calls work. The doctor in this case submitted this protocol. I would then adjust it or make comments on it. And oftentimes in the beginning, I'll just actually design a protocol for you, if that helps, you know, and we'll march through that. Every lab question gets answered every week, so you can get right back to your patients. And of course, you learn a tremendous amount from watching other doctors submit labs, and then you get the benefit of going over the labs with me and with the group. And so I might, like, this happened last week. What were we talking about? We were talking about one of these cases I'm showing you here, and one of the other doctors chimed in about her area of expertise. Oh yeah, it was a case that had to do with blood thinners, and I know a little bit about blood thinners, but not a lot. So we were talking about the case, and then one of the doctors in the group said, well, actually I run a clinic that focuses just on people that are using blood thinning drugs, so let me tell you what you should look for. What are the odds on that? This random subject comes up and one of the doctors on the call is an expert in it. So again, you learn from me as much as I have to communicate, which is a lot, and then you learn from the other people in the class, which just makes it such a wonderful experience. Okay, so that's what the live calls are like. You got the community, and then you have the curriculum itself. At this point, at this point, what we've built is sort of, I don't know what to say. I'm very proud of it. I've built something over the last decade that is a customized piece of software that just is everything that a clinician needs to learn how to do functional medicine. I mean, we really thought this through. Like, if you go to the area like content and resources here, you'll see forms for everything you can imagine. You'll see everything from like patient checklists to scripts for how to explain labs to patients. You'll see whole PowerPoint presentations that I give you so that you don't have to create a PowerPoint if you want to do a lecture for your patients. I mean, there is so much information in here. Again, handouts, questionnaires, everything from how you deal with creating a receipt, to how you recommend a certain supplement be taken. There's just a lot of practical stuff in here that you need when you're doing this kind of a practice. So we really tried to provide everything that you're going to need to get started. This is years and years and years of work. If you try to do this on your own, or if you've been doing this on your own for a while, you kind of know what I mean. Now, about half the doctors that take this class have been in practice for more than 10 years, which is very interesting to me. And that's been true the whole time I've been teaching. So they don't need new patient paperwork. They have their own new patient paperwork, right? And what the more experienced doctors get out of this class is a system or a model, which goes right back to the treatment map. Let me show you that again. Because usually if the doctor's been in practice for over 10 years, and they're super smart and compassionate, which all the doctors that we work with are, then there gets to be a sense of complete overwhelm, and their practice usually has started to sprawl and grow, and they're doing all kinds of things. And for those doctors, having a simple 3-body system, neuroendocrine, GI, detox, with a limited number of supplements, it really allows them to focus their practice and concentrate it and get back onto more of a systems approach, more of a model, rather than the scattered system that a lot of docs end up with. And so if you've been in practice for a while, what you'll get out of this class is a ready-to-use model, so you don't have to revamp your clinic on your own. You just set it up according to this model. So again, about half the doctors have been in practice for 10 plus years. Half of them are relatively new to functional medicine, really seem to be able to work with both groups of people very, very successfully. And the different groups get different things out of it, depending on if they're new or in a way, the more experienced doctors appreciate the class more because they can see how much work this was and how much it can help. The newer doctors, they're just absorbing everything and it's kind of cool. So anyways, we attract both, and both groups seem to do quite well. All right, so that's the basic structures of the class. I think you saw the community. Let me see here. We have the next class starting November 6th, which sounds like that's right around the corner. And here's what you get if you sign up for it. You get 6 months of the personal mentorship, right? That's the once-a-week calls. You get the ongoing community exchange that I just showed you. You get access to the case study library. Gave you a little hint about that. You get all the assignments, the reading, the testing, what labs we use, how to interpret them, all that basic information. And then you get all the presentations, the audios, the transcripts, everything that you can imagine. If you have more questions, you can contact the Kalish Institute at the email there. And I'm happy to talk to you one-on-one as well. We don't have time tonight, but if you want to schedule a call, I'll be happy to talk to you about the class. We're really ready. One of the reasons why I've been so successful and why if you talk to a graduate of this program, by and large, they just rave about it, is because we're pretty careful and selective about who we let into the class. And at the conference I was at over the weekend, there were 3 doctors that came up to me who I told this was not the right class for them. And I tried to refer them to the right person. One of them really just needed to work with an attorney and get some legal questions answered. Some of the other ones just weren't really, there was another one who was really just not at the point where this would have helped her very much. And so this part of the assessment here is to make sure it's a good fit, because if it's not a good fit, then it's just a bad experience for you, and then it's a bad experience for me. And life is too short for us to have bad experiences. I don't want to just take someone's money and then have you complain about the class. That would be the worst thing that could happen for you and for me and for my reputation and everything, right? So I want to make sure that's going to work. If you sign up by the 30th and you use this code, VIP November 17, NOV 17, you get $500 off. You get a $500 discount. I don't know about you, but I love discounts, so we always have a discount offer. And you also get, this was my idea. I don't know how my staff felt about this, but we were trying to figure out what else could we give the doctors for November. So we're tossing in my functional medicine fundamentals course, and I'll show you that real quickly here. This is a pretty cool class. I'll tell you a little bit about the history with this class as well. So what happened was, my staff wanted me to design a class that was, less expensive, because some people, don't want to spend 8 or 10 or 15 grand or whatever, And so I was trying to think about how I could construct something that was new and kind of fresh, but still really relevant. And so I came up with this idea about teaching a class that was just about program design, because that seems to be one of the areas that people really get tripped up on, And so I'll show you here the actual structure of this course that you get. As a part, if you sign up for the basic mentorship, you get this as well. So it's different than the mentorship. It's not lab-based. It's just all about designing supplement programs. So you'll see here patient interaction, mastering the patient relationship, patient intake, sales and follow-up, lifestyle coaching, review there. That's a pretty good section, but I'll tell you the best section here, and I worked on this for many, many months. A lot of work that I put into this. It's right here. Mastering supplement programs, clinical nutrition. That's a couple hours right there if you add that up. Oh my gosh, look. Supplements. That's a 2-hour talk right there. Wow. I haven't looked at this in a while. Program design. That's another hour and a half. Protocol classifications. I just went through protocol after protocol after protocol after protocol. I don't know, it took me 214 minutes just to do that one section. I really put a lot into this, okay? It's like everything that I know about how to get patients to do supplement programs. And then we wrapped it up with a short little section on practice management. But this is the heart and soul of the fundamentals class, is this section here. It's basically everything that I ever learned about supplement program design in hour after hour of content. And if someone had sat down with me and taught me all this stuff, this is really like the gold in our whole industry, because it's like, it's just a really hard stuff to learn, because the supplement company reps can tell you about the product, and the lab companies can tell you what the lab results mean. You can get that from other places, but it's really hard to get the ins and outs of how to actually master supplement program design, which is why I built that. And I would say almost overbuilt that particular section of the course. So anyways, you get this for free if you take the class, and it's, again, not about lab analysis as the rest of the course is. It's about just the psychology of prescribing supplements, basically, which is a pretty important part of the job. Okay, so you get $500 off and you get that class if you sign up for the group that we're enrolling now. Wanted to make this kind of irresistible for you guys, all right? And then I wanted to show one other thing here. So I have a lot of windows open. I know what I wanted to do. So I wanted to say just the things that have changed or that are changing. So there's a couple of things that are really important that have happened in my life that are going to affect the way the classes are done. And so one of the things that happened was about a year and a half ago, I was provided a mentor myself. So I'm now working with Dr. Richard Lord, who many of you have probably heard of. And Richard is the scientist that is behind much of the work that we do. He was the lead scientist and lab developer at Metametrics for a good 30 years. And he ended up then retiring. And I ran into Richard a couple years ago. I mean, obviously I've known him my whole career because everybody knows Richard. He's been around for a while. Here's his original book, Laboratory Evaluations for Integrative Medicine. And he also, of course, brainstormed the organic acids test. That is his project from 30 years ago. He also is the scientist that designed the GI effects test. So two of the leading labs in our industry were designed by Richard. And he certainly knows a lot about this. He's literally the guy that wrote the book. So Richard took me on about a year and a half ago as a student and decided that he wanted to transfer all his scientific knowledge and all his intellectual property to the Kalish Institute by teaching me. And so now, you know, and I'm kind of old. Like, I'm 53 years old, right? I didn't expect to run across the most significant teacher in my life at this point in my career. I thought I was kind of on the downward slope. But Richard quizzes me. We work together every Monday. I'm not kidding. He quizzes me. He'll like ask me about, what do you think happened to that NADH molecule? And he pushes me, and he has just dragged me back into the physiology and the depths of functional medicine. And it's probably one of the biggest honors of my life, really, to have Richard recognize in me the teaching ability that he feels confident to hand over everything that he's learned all these years to me and to the Kalish Institute, so that I can further his teaching work. And so what that means for you is that every week I talk to Richard on Monday for a couple, 3 hours, and then every Tuesday and Wednesday when we're doing the calls, I'm telling you all the stuff that I just learned from Richard, and it has up-leveled my understanding of this lab work dramatically, let's say. So you're all, and this is Richard's intent. He's teaching me so that I can teach you. And it's just, I have to say, he's the most important teacher I've ever had. And I've had some amazing mentors in my career, but no one has really ever offered what Richard has, which is to teach me everything they know. And you know, my other teachers are busy. They had other students. I'm Richard's only real student right now. And the fact that he's also really one of the founders, if not the founder, of clinical lab in our industry, his wealth of knowledge is something that is really quite incredible. So anyways, that's sort of an uplifting thing that's going to be happening, was been going on for a year and a half, and it's going to continue. You guys would be in the middle of learning all this stuff that I know as well as what Richard knows. Okay, so that's a pretty significant change, and then upgrade, let's say, and then let's see. I think that's all the big stuff. About a bunch of questions. I'm going to start off. Michael had a question. Let me see if I can unmute him or not. Michael, are you there, sir? If not, I'll just read it out. Okay, he might not have his phone hooked up. So Michael's question was, when is the weekly live class? And so we have call times in the mornings and in the afternoons on Tuesday. So there's right now I think there's 9 a.m. California time on Tuesday and 5 p.m. California time on Tuesday. So you can translate that into wherever you are. There are some other class times, but they're usually for the more advanced students. So you know. And then let's see, let me look up the other questions here that came in before. That was Michael's question. How big are the classes? So we limited. I'm the only teacher. That answers another question, actually. So we don't have any like assistant teachers. I am the only teacher. And you can't really outsource mentorship, can you? If I had called Dr. Timmons one day and said, oh, shit, Bill, what am I going to do? This progesterone level is so high. And he said, well, I don't have time, Dan. Let me refer you to my assistant mentor. I'd be like, no, let me talk to you, Dr. Timmons. So anyways, I'm the guy who teaches all the classes. And I keep them small because I get stressed if there's not too many doctors on the call because we got to get through every lab every week, all right? And this is like, I don't know, the Marines or something, no man left behind, right? You know, we do not end the class until every lab question has been answered. Most of them run an hour. That's how they're designed. We've had 2-hour classes before. If you guys send in that many labs, that's just what's going to happen. So we keep the groups really small. It's usually around 20 doctors per group, okay? Let me see the next question here. How much individual attention do I get? So I don't have the time to call you every day and, you know, talk about stuff, but we have the live weekly call, and even though it's only an hour-long call, I feel like we get plenty of time for doctors because, you know, each week some doctors will have a bunch of labs, some won't, and so we really, it feels like a lot of time. I don't think students ever feel like they're getting shortchanged on that. And if you get in, we had this one student years ago named Michael Winters. Michael did 70 adrenal labs in a really short period of time. And how are we going to go through 70 adrenal labs on a phone call? I mean, that was just impossible. So I set up a special time and I talked to him. So, you know, there's some special circumstances we can talk away from the regular group. Next question, Sally, if I'm an NP, nurse practitioner, can I take the course? So yes, we have nurse practitioners, some wonderful ones. We have medical doctors. We have naturopaths, chiropractors, acupuncturists. You know, we have a few physical therapists, a few nutritionists, RDs. It's a really broad spectrum. We have a few people who are health coaches. If you're not licensed as a doctor to order labs and you're a health coach, you should set up a special time to talk to me because we can train health coaches, but you have to have a doctor that you're working under, and we can help you with that. Okay. How much science background do you need or functional medicine training do you need to take this class? So we get a variety of people, like I said earlier. We get people who have been doing functional medicine for 10 or 20 years that take the course. And we get people who are still in medical school, still in naturopathic school. So it can go from, because it's a practically oriented class, you don't need a lot of knowledge. Like, I don't know, my best friend is Matt, and he's a contractor. Like, if you were going to go work for Matt, he would just say, okay, go grab a belt, just start swinging hammers and building this house. He wouldn't say, you know, what's the metallurgical coefficient of that saw over there, right? So you don't need to know a lot of theory or background to do this work. In terms of this class, it's very practical. It's just the hands-on. How is your class different than IFM? So this one comes up a lot. So first of all, I love the IFM faculty and the IFM group more than life itself. They are the most incredible group of doctors I've ever met. And if you need science-based training in functional medicine, that's the go-to group. I am, like, again, the guy that just teaches you how to swing the hammer and say, I'm the guy that says, this person needs DHEA, 3 milligrams 3 times a day. Here's why. Here's the brand. They need it for 6 months. That's just very hands-on. IFM doesn't do that at all. They're teaching the high-level theory and the research behind all this. So we complement one another very much, and I encourage everyone to do the IFM classes. In fact, you know, I do at least 2 or 3 IFM courses myself every year just to refresh myself. Oh, how is your class different than Chris Kresser's course? Okay, so Chris Kresser is, people are always surprised by this. He's a good friend of mine. You know, we go out for lunch together all the time and have for many years. from even before he started teaching classes. He and I were friends and we went out to lunch. So Chris's class is based on Chris's personality, and it's different. He's really like almost opposite from me. I'm like this overly effusive, like ridiculously talks too much, you know, guy who's just in your face and wants to, you know, connect with you every week in person. Chris is much more research oriented. I know if you probably checked IQs, he's probably a little bit smarter than I am in terms of analytical skills. Some people really who are analytical like that. He lays out his curriculum, I think, in a more organized way. Mine is a little more chaotic and kind of clinically oriented. So a lot of that comes down to personality style, and it's easy enough. Just go and watch a bunch of Chris's videos and see if you really relate to his personality style. You will probably get more out of his class, perhaps. And a lot of people end up taking both courses as well. I don't think there's a problem with that because, again, our personalities are different and the content that we cover is quite a bit different. I do organic acids. Chris doesn't. Chris does all the blood work. I don't. So you get different clinical stuff from us as well. How long do you have access to the materials? So from the day you sign up, you have access to everything for a year, even though the course is only 6 months. How many hours a week does the course take? So as you saw, there's a tremendous amount of material. So you could, at a minimum, absolute minimum, to get something out of this class and feel like your money is well spent, I would say you should allocate 3 to 5 hours per week. Now, if you don't have children, if you have a lot of free time, if you're super interested in this stuff, then you could spend 5, 10, 15 hours a week going through the curriculum and going through the community. I've had doctors who went through the whole 6-month curriculum in literally 6 weeks. There's this one guy in Florida, really interesting guy, super smart medical doctor, teaches tennis professionals. He had a really cool model. Basically, he only had like a very few patients, and he charged each patient like $50,000 a year. Cool, right? Just to be like their personal doctor, small group. He went through the whole 6 months in literally 6 or 8 weeks. So you can go and you get access to everything right away. It's designed to do once a week. You do this section and this section, and you kind of plow through it over 6 months. Most people that have families and jobs, they're going to be more in that 5 hours a week kind of amount of time, and so the curriculum will take around 6 months. But the more time that you have, the more stuff you have you can look at, depending on your learning style and how quickly you can absorb information. I also often see some of the more successful students will go through the whole curriculum, not super fast, but in 3 months, whatever, 4 months, and then they'll come back around and do the parts that they feel they want to focus on a second time, or do the whole thing a second time, because it's pretty dense. These lectures are pretty dense. There's a lot of information in there, and the hallmark of this class is it's about the application, not about the learning of abstract information. And so you may learn something at a portion in the class but not have the chance to apply it. So 2 months later, you may get your first H. pylori case, but the H. pylori module was 2 months ago. You may want to go back and re-listen to that and reassess yourself, re-familiarize yourself with that information to make it more valuable. Okay. All right, let me see. I think I covered all the questions. If you guys have more questions, feel free to set up a call. This is going to be a great group. We've got the $500 discount, and for the first time ever, I think we're giving away that whole fundamentals course in program design that I talked about. It'll be hopefully a big boost for you all. And if you're on the fence, I don't know what to say, call me. I'll try to talk you into it if it's appropriate. We're not going to be doing another one of these for a while. I have some other projects that have come up, so I think the next one of these is not, we don't have it scheduled yet, but we usually do one in January. We're not going to do one in January this year, so the next one's going to be 2, 3, 4, but more than 2 or 3 or 4 months away, something like 4 or 5 or 6 months away from now. Okay? I hope we got one more question, sorry, I missed here. Hang on, I was spacing out. Let me pull this up. Let's see, my computer's not cooperating. Hang on a second. Where'd it go? Oh, hang on a second. I know I have a question, but I can't see it. There it is. Question is, I have a call with you tomorrow. Is it through Skype? No, Philippa, that's just a regular phone call. And then Michael asked, do you discuss practice management issues? Absolutely, yes. not a practice management class. It's but you can't really separate those two issues. So any question that comes up that's practice management oriented, we'll for sure handle. And in my mind, it all mushes together, right? Whether you're trying to figure out how much DHEA to give somebody in a given program, which would be kind of a little more on the clinical side, or you're trying to figure out how much of it they should buy and how to get them to buy that amount, which is a little more of a practice management issue. So in my mind, it all kind of blends together. And I'm pretty much entirely dedicating my life now to getting successful practices up and running. And I've gotten really good at this, you guys. And I go out to seminars like I did this past weekend in Denver, and I meet students. It's really, really rewarding for me to see you all be successful. And that's pretty much what I'm here for on this planet right now, is to make anyone who signs up for this class super successful in terms of their functional medicine clinic, comfortable financially. I make a lot of money in my clinic. I work 10 or 12 hours a week with patients, and we do $800,000 or $900,000 a year in gross collections. I walk away with 60% of that. I make a boat ton of money doing this stuff, and I don't expect you guys to hit those kind of numbers, but you can realistically hit half of that, you know, and work a reasonable amount, 20, 30 hours a week, and have a really supportive income. So, you can do what you want with your life and have time to take care of yourself. In the way that my life is set up now, I teach a fair amount. I practice 10 or 12 hours a week. I meditate 3 or 4 hours every day. My son is in college now, and so I don't have any of those parenting duties that I used to anymore. I have a lot of time, and I put it into my spiritual practice and into developing functional medicine clinics. That's basically either I'm meditating or working with doctors. That's kind of what I do now, and it's a very satisfying role for me. And so I hope you guys take up this offer. If it's something that fits you or suits you, you will not regret it, I promise. And if you're on a fence, schedule a call, and I won't try to talk you into it unless I think it's a really good idea. I just want to assess if it's going to be the right time for you to do it right now in your life, etc. Okay? So I hope you have a great rest of your evening. Thank you for taking the time to listen to all this, and I hope to be talking to a lot of you in a few weeks when the class starts. Okay, bye for now.